You're listening to The Play Patch. Welcome back, everyone. We're discussing some disturbing news from Microsoft, and it's disturbing for a lot of us, and we're going to be discussing that in relative detail. Before we do, if you like our podcasts, please subscribe, click the bell, and do all the other lovely stuff. So, what's been happening, Nick?
Well, it's good old Microsoft again, isn't it? And we're back on this train that we were on many years ago when they wanted to go digital the last time and get rid of all of the used games and all these things. And then Sony started taking the piss out of them, and they changed their ways. But it looks like all we've ended up doing is delaying. It appears the inevitable.
And Sony, when they did their piss take a few years ago, what is alarming, is that they're doing the very same thing, aren't they? They've got a console that's completely digital.
Yeah.
And with the PS5 Pros that are coming out, I don't think they're going to be having disk drives. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, it looks like they're all going to be doing it. I mean, Microsoft obviously is the big one, but maybe they're just the ones who are being the most honest. Who knows, eh?
Yeah, that's the thing. But it's not just that. We will discuss that. But it's also about the fact that Microsoft have laid off like 1,600 jobs in the gaming sort of segment of their company. And that is kind of a little bit disturbing. I mean, they've spent billions buying Bethesda and Blizzard, Activision, and now they're sort of downsizing, they're shrinking a little bit. Do you think that this is relatively bad news for Microsoft game titles coming out soon?
Well, it's not good news, is it? I'm not sure. I'm not sure how bad. I mean, financially, they're okay. I still don't. I don't know, Barry. It's still Microsoft. I don't know. They're still playing catch up to Sony, and with the exception of Game Pass, I just feel like they've done so many kind of anti-consumer things, bro, for the last couple of years. Well, we did a cast a couple of weeks ago discussing the purchase of Blizzard and what Microsoft might do with all their titles, and we came kind of to the conclusion that it was kind of World of Warcraft or kind of bust to a certain degree, because we analysed a lot of their other games and we just thought, well, is that going to move the needle kind of thing? And so, most of their portfolio, I don't know, I don't think are going to be ported over, with the exception maybe of World of Warcraft. So I got a question if it was a particularly good purchase. What do you think?
I'm not entirely sure it was. I mean, I think they just purchased it to stop Sony from purchasing it. It's starting to feel that way because there's not really much in their library. I mean, apart from Call of Duty, there's not really... I mean, why buy the Call of Duty franchise when it's kind of getting a bit long in the tooth? And yeah, people are still playing it, but Activision are kind of fucking the game up. They're sort of, they're turning it into a cash cow, and if that's what Microsoft is going for, okay, fine. But it's hitting a certain target audience, and that target audience is going to grow out of it. And yeah, you'll probably get new members of that target audience growing into it, but I don't know. It's the more that people grow out of it, they realize that the insidiousness of having seasons in these fucking games. It's just like, oh, okay, so now we're bringing out this, and here's another grind fest for you.
I understand them. I understand them, Pete, buying Bethesda, right? Even though we can all have a little laugh at Starfield not really being that great, and Fallout 76 being a train wreck. But what they were buying the same developers who obviously made one of the most well-known and successful games of all time, which is Skyrim. That's who they thought they were buying.
Yeah.
We'll have to see whether or not it pays off for them in the long term. It hasn't yet, because the 2 games or so that they've released have been pretty much flops or average at best, right? So it hasn't paid off so far, but we'll have to see what the next Elder Scrolls and stuff like that. So it's a little too early, really, to tell if that was a good purchase or not. But when it comes to like Activision Blizzard, I suppose if they make the Call of Duty games Xbox exclusives, I suppose. Although you've said, Pete, that yes, it is a kind of little bit on the downward trend, and it is. It's still probably valuable enough to where it will convince some people who are on the fence, like, oh, do I buy a PlayStation or do I buy an Xbox? And then they see that Call of Duty's an Xbox exclusive. If they go that route, and they haven't yet, then maybe I can see a little bit of value there. A little bit.
Do you think they'll keep it exclusive to their console, or do you think they'll charge Sony an extortionate amount to have them on their consoles?
I mean, if they really want to win the overall race, then I'm afraid they've got to be cutthroat, haven't they? So they've really got to say, no, it's coming on Xbox only, just like they did with Bethesda. Really long term, like, yeah, okay, in the short term, they've kind of, if I'm wrong, then tell me I'm wrong, but I believe initially they said they were going to allow Call of Duty to still be on the PlayStation, but I assume that they can end that whenever they want. They can put their foot down and say, no, now it's not going to be. Now any new games now are going to be Xbox only.
Then why buy the company then? It's all a bit strange. I think we're not obviously not being told the full picture, and I don't expect them to, but it's all a bit weird. I think they're going to start off by saying, "Oh yeah, no, we'll allow it," but then they're going to eventually make them exclusives. I can see that coming.
But they've got to. I would have thought surely they've got to.
But let's sort of turn our heads towards something that's a little bit more worrying here.
Yeah.
Now we're not rich, are we? I mean,
No.
like we have enough money to sort of live. I won't say comfortably, but like to
we can just about pay the bills. We don't have loads of disposable income.
yeah.
But we can just about pay the bills, I suppose.
Yeah, we can live in a and it is a state of mind. I'm sorry to say, guys, that it's like stop wanting things all the time. But we're not rich, and when it comes to buying games, the price of them is kind of expensive enough for us. And not only are companies wanting to increase the price, but they're preferring digital sales over physical sales because there's an extra cost. So Microsoft has turned around and said, we're not going to be producing any more physical copies of our games anymore. It's just going to be digital.
Yeah.
That's scary. I don't like it.
No.
The fact that they want to produce a console which is completely digital, so there's no disc slot. I have a problem with that. And if anyone else that's listening has a problem with that and you don't have an Xbox, then go out and get yourself an Xbox Series X, because it has a 4K Blu-ray player, which is a huge benefit. And it plays relatively good games.
Yeah.
But what do we think about all of this? I mean...
I watched a YouTuber called Young Ye. I'm not going to personally attack the bloke. I've got nothing personally against him, really.
I will.
Yeah, I mean, I watched his video, and he was talking a lot about people's ownership of the games, and that is a part of it. I'm not dismissing that isn't a big part of it. It is. But he didn't go into the part that worries me, and I think a lot of people maybe aren't seeing it, maybe because maybe they're just a bit more fortunate in life, or maybe they've got more disposable income, or whatever the reason is. But a big thing of people who don't have much disposable income is the whole used game market, and what this will do is it's one of those things where once it's gone, they'll never bring it back. It's kind of gone. Microsoft tried to do it years ago. They were generally rejected. And Sony also took the piss out of them a little bit. And I know the blowback's going to be, Pete. I can already hear the blowback, like, oh, get with the times, old man. We're all going digital now. And, okay, fair enough. All right, I understand that. But there's also drawbacks to doing that. And I just don't see many people really talking about these drawbacks. Either they don't see it, and I'm not sure that's the case. Not like, oh, I'm so amazing, only I see it, because you see it as well. But a lot of people, it seems, are not talking about it, and that is the whole fact that by getting rid of these used games market, you're getting rid of, and there's not many of these left. There's CEX over in the UK who sell used games, and then you've got the second-hand market such as eBay and places like that. And when Microsoft and Sony and they all go digital, all of that goes away. All of it goes away. And that will affect the low income people so much, because then they'll be forced to pay whatever Microsoft and etc. deem good prices. And the argument is, I think, a little bit, Pete, that when everything goes digital, Microsoft and everything, they'll lower the prices.
No,
But
they
they
won't.
don't. But they don't.
They won't. Who fucking said that? No, they won't.
No, but that's always been the excuse, isn't it? Like, because we haven't got to produce the physical copies, that the discount can be passed on to the consumers, because we haven't got to produce and pay the people to produce. So all this money that we're saving by making everything digital, all the discount will be passed on to the consumers. But it doesn't happen.
No, it doesn't. It's not going to happen that way.
No, it never happened.
You know, what really does my head in about all of this is that, as you said, they tried it before, and they're succeeding now. And what's even more disturbing is that people don't seem to care, or we're not hearing the voices of people who do actually care. I mean, I know people out there that don't actually have a fucking internet connection still.
Well, that's a completely different. That's a different argument, a valid one. That's a completely different argument that some people just might not be able to have the connection to download stuff, or the connection's so slow that it takes them days. My connection downgraded when I moved into my new place a couple of years ago, right? I can still download games, but even I've noticed I'm on half the speed I used to be. And it takes me much longer, and it's annoying. But I'm on 70 or so, which nowadays is maybe average, maybe just about average speed. But there's people who are our mate Alan used to be on 20 or 30. God knows how long it took him to download games and patches and everything. Yeah. So there's that stuff as well.
But it's the fact that people who play games when they don't have a stable internet connection is what's worrying, especially if they live in an area where they can't get cellular internet or like mobile internet to connect with. It's the fact that the trend of having games which need a day one patch and then subsequent patches because things are purposefully broken, and I'm starting to think that they're doing this on purpose now, because it's all gearing towards them not wanting you to have a physical disc anymore. They don't want you to have a disc. They don't want you to hand it over to someone else, or they don't want you to sell it. And if you're going to, they want to make the money, not you make the money. So this is all geared towards
greed, bruv.
Yeah,
it's just flat out greed.
Yeah, it's like, how much money do you want to make? I mean, like, what are you going to spend the money on, for crying out loud? And they're saying, games are more expensive. Really? Because I don't think they are. It's like, what's suddenly hiked the price of making a game when 5-10 years ago that wasn't the case? Is it because you're spending more resources on like microtransactions and little bits and bobs that, DLC that people can pay £30 for, all that kind of shit? Because it's certainly not on the base game. It's like like Modern Warfare 3. I mean, we spoke about this. Modern Warfare 3, the main campaign, single-player campaign, was fucking dire. It was like less than 4 hours. And they literally put most of their money on the live service. So they're saying, it's costing us a lot to make these games these days. No, what you mean to say is that the live service portion of your game is costing a lot, and you're trying to make that money back through the microtransactions when none of us really want it. It's like when I play Magic the Gathering, which I haven't done for a while, I want to spend money on packs. Mm-hmm. And I feel like I'm being duped. I'm being deluded into doing that, into thinking that way. And I don't like it anymore. so I try not to play the game.
I understand totally. Yeah.
But like, you've got other people who aren't so strong-minded. They're sort of like, oh fuck it, they save up 50 quid, or they spend the 50 quid they don't have on a new pack and stuff like that. And it's just, there needs more regulation. We need more sort of like, the whole games industry needs turning around.
Yeah, the game. I honestly believe that the game industry does not realize how lucky it is. It's one of the few industries I can think of, maybe the only one, who can release an unfinished product and get away with it. Imagine if somebody released a film, right, and
Yeah.
the film goes to the cinema, and then they cut the last 10 minutes of the film.
Yeah, or it's like the first 60% of the film, and the rest of it's got, you have to come back next week to watch the rest of it.
Or you go to a shop, you buy some groceries, right, and then you get home, and then half of your pack of eggs are just not there. 3 out of the 12 pack of eggs they're just not there. They're just not there. They're just not there. What would you do? You'd probably take them back and say, give me my fucking money back, or give me the free fucking eggs that are missing.
You have to come back next week for the eggs, and you have to pay the same price again to get them.
Yeah.
That is literally the same thing.
It's they get away with it, and they don't. I honestly believe they don't realize how lucky they are, and they are getting away with it, and it looks like they're going to continue to get away with it. To release these unfinished products, bruv, and they get away with it, and I think they're taking the piss. I think they're taking it for granted, and to be honest, some of it's on us because we let them get away with it.
Well, I didn't want them to get away with it. I know you didn't want them to let it.
I don't want to, but I can't stop it, can I? All I can do is not buy the game per se. And to be honest, I've become much more skeptical regarding games. I never pre-order. I've learned the lesson of never pre-ordering games. I won't even really buy the game until a couple of weeks later to make sure that I can see how finished it is, and then I'll base my review based upon the poor son of a bitches who are technically beta testing the game for me and for the companies as well. The poor smucks who fall for that shit and do buy it on pre-order and get 3/4 of the game they're meant to get.
There's 2 games in 2025 that I probably would pre-order. Having said that, because there's
one, bro, one.
There are companies that you can pretty much guarantee still that are going to deliver, and it's Monster Hunter Rise and it's GTA 6, basically.
Monster Hunter Wilds, you mean? Yeah.
Wilds, I do beg your pardon. Yes. Yeah. But it literally, I can't trust any other company.
No.
No. And that's the matter of fact of it. That's it.
So I mean, Microsoft, this whole digital thing, bruv. I mean, it's going to happen. It's one of those things that it is going to happen, no matter what the blowback kind of is this time. And the reason it's going to happen because it's happening to all media, and it is a way of the world. It's a way of technology, and I understand. I can understand technology. I get it. Technology. The VHS is. When we were growing up, they had their day. DVDs kind of had their day, so now we're on to Blu-rays. But now it's getting to the fact that Blu-rays are going to have their day because it's going to be, well, nobody wants physical media anymore. This is where we're coming to now, where everything is going to be streamed. Most of it is already streamed. Cable network television is going to go the way of the dodo soon as well. So that's going to be gone soon. Most physical media is all going to be gone. So that's all kind of Blu-rays and stuff like that. And video games are going to join that mix, and it's kind of inevitable. And so there's nothing we can do about it, mate. That's the unfortunate thing.
Yeah, I hope Blu-rays don't go in terms of that sort of physical media. I think that there's a big backlash on sort of other types of entertainment media. I mean, like, which console was it? Was it Sony or Microsoft that deleted people's copies of TV shows and stuff?
It's Sony. Sony did it.
And here's the company that were taking the piss out of Microsoft a few years back, right? Because
back then, Sony weren't ready to do it. weren't ready to get to do it all. But now, 5 years down the line, they've realised that it's kind of, like I've just said, it's like it's inevitable that is what is going to happen. Back then, they were playing the good guys, taking a piss out of Microsoft, like, oh yeah, you want to trade used games? And then they did, you remember the scene, don't you? He hands it to his mate and he goes, thanks. And it was funny, and it was funny, and it certainly worked at the time, and it was a great burn.
Yeah.
But yeah, as you've said, I mean, and Nintendo also will also do it. There's none of them are going to be this. They're all going to do it eventually. Who does it first? It looks like Microsoft are going to be the first to push it. Sony will join, and then probably Nintendo will come in on third because Nintendo are always a bit quirky like that. They'll eventually do it as well. So,
but this is a very risky move for Microsoft because, I mean, they said if the Game Pass thing doesn't work out by 2028 or 29, whatever it was, then they're packing up the whole games division. And that's like, well, that's you having spent billions on acquiring companies, and you've given yourself X amount of years, not many to be honest, like 4 or 5 years away, and it's all very mysterious to me. It's like, what the hell are they doing over there? I don't like the idea of buying something. I've never liked the idea of buying something via an online store, via console, because I don't own that copy, and I legally probably don't own that copy. Right? As soon as I die, then it's not like my brother can take it over or whatever. So this is why I always preferred going into town, getting the physical copy, and then sitting on the bus on the way home and reading the manual. Those days are long gone, and they're not coming back, and I'm not happy about it. I'm quite happy to buy something on the PC via digital, because when it's downloaded, I can make a copy. It's mine, and I can mod it. I can do all kinds of stuff with it. But when it comes to console, you're restricted. You're tied up. You don't have a say, and that's unsettling.
Going to the PC stuff, I agree with you to a certain amount, but also, and you see, I was okay with it. I was okay with digital games on PC with Steam. Yeah. This is going back a number of years, because I used to see Steam used to have their Steam sales a couple of times a year, and you could get good deals, and you could honestly get deals where they were cheaper than retail, than physical copies. So it actually makes you can. It's harder and it's rarer, and you do have to be patient for one of these, the yearly sales or so. So you have to be willing to wait. And I know as well as you do that some people have a problem with that. That's up to them, but some people, fear of missing out, they want stuff now. I understand. I'm not immune to it. But it's just like, if they really were honest and actually said, okay, we're going to go full digital, but what we're going to do is we're going to make the base price for all digital games. We'll use the English currency rather than it being 60 quid over here. We're going to slash it to 40. All the new releases are going to be 40 quid, but digital, and that's it. Then I reckon that people would accept the fact that they could no longer trade their used games, and people would probably be a lot more understanding. But you and I both know they ain't going to reduce it to 40. They'll keep it at 60, if not increase it. And you know what happens if they increase it? There's nothing we can do about it because there's no options. And what they're doing is, by this, they're taking away people's options. And the more they take away people's options, the more control they get. That is the worry.
They're doing it slowly but surely, right? I mean, I with that whole thing that happened a few years ago, I knew that they were going to try and do it again.
Yeah.
I knew straight out of the bat. I was like, okay, so they're just going to try and do it again, but more slyly.
Yeah.
And they managed to sort of have this console always online if you want to have the latest updates and bug fixes and stuff. It's just like, no, release a complete fucking game. What is wrong with you lot?
Because they haven't got it anymore, bruv, and we let them get away with it. That's why they haven't got it. They've got no governing body. There's no governing, at least not yet, because the law is still very much behind when it comes to the video games industry in general. The law's still very much behind, and the whole digital stuff is still so far behind, and it will be for a number of years yet. So until they actually catch up and start putting in new legislation and new laws regarding releasing digital copies and what people's rights are when it comes to stuff like refunds and stuff. Right now, it's more or less all governed by the console manufacturers or Steam. It's all governed by them now, and they don't really have to answer to not many people. So until stuff comes in to actually regulate them, then they're going to continue to literally take the piss, I'm afraid.
Well, we all need to rise up. We all need to just sort of wake up and turn our PCs off for a while and just sort of say, no, we're not taking this. You know, it's probably not going to happen, but I would like it to. I would like, you know, people to just sort of say, no, we want physical copies, or we want fair price digital games, or at the very least, we want very fair trade-in systems. Because if we played a game and we don't want it anymore, then allow us to sort of exchange it for credit and buy something else.
Yeah, I mean, if they introduce something like that, they won't. But if they were to, then that would be a decent sacrifice to alleviate the people who don't have loads of money, and that might encourage them to say, okay, I will buy digitally now, because at least I've got a little bit of a get out of clause. If I don't like the game, then at least I can get, I don't know, half my money back or something. Because that's technically all you get if you sell used. If you go and sell on eBay, right, after you've paid the eBay fees, after you've paid the advertisement fees just to list it, after you've paid the postage fees, you get half of your money back, I'd say.
Mm.
So I think people would kind of accept that. Like if you buy a game for 60 quid, and if you I don't know, within the first, what would you say to fair, 2 weeks?
Yeah, I guess.
Something like 2 weeks, then you get £30 credit.
Yeah, I mean, even a week would do. It's like if you've got like an avid gamer, it's just like, well, you know, they're going to know within a week whether they like the fucking game or not.
Yeah.
We're heading down a road which I don't like, and it's putting me off playing games generally as a result on the console. Now, that's not to say that I'm going to stop completely, but it's worrying me. And I don't think it's fair for the masses either, because how many of us in this country are rich or kind of well off? You know, and can be able to afford spending all this money on games. I'm not sure it's a lot of people, and they're going to want fairer prices and stuff. Of course they are, but for what games offer, it's just not worth it. This is why I prefer games with good storylines and experiences, not just brain dead shoot 'em ups. And, you know, like Monster Hunter is a good example because it's a very addictive.
But you don't play that for the story, though, do we? Though, I mean,
no, we don't. But it's a good example of how to do a game right that doesn't have a good story.
Yeah.
Or has a story which is like whatever.
Yeah.
Because the gameplay loop is so addictive, and yes, it's a bit of a grind fest, but it's fun. And it's all in the mind. It's like these Dark Souls games. It's all in the mind. It's as difficult as you want it to be in your head. And as soon as you get disciplined and wake up and realize that it's not actually that difficult, then you'll have an easier time with it. And that's why I like these types of games. And, you know, I do crave a good story as well. You know, so I'm waiting for the next Witcher. I'm waiting for the next Mass Effect. And, you know, we'll see what happens there. But Microsoft are really shooting themselves in the foot here because they want their Game Pass to work. And it's not going to work if they start being arseholes, which is what they are at the moment.
I mean, I'll talk about my own preferences. I think it's like when I look about how many games that I buy, as Peter said, neither one of us are really rich. I don't have much disposable income. I have a little bit, but it's not much. I've got to be very picky with how I spend this money. So most games I buy, I end up buying, on average, I'd say at least 6 months behind when they come out. And the sweet spots for me generally is about the £30 mark. So most games in the UK, when on release, they come out, I'm going to say between £50 and £60 is the average price, depending on where you shop. If you shop online, you can get it nearer the 50 mark. But so I nearly have to wait for nearly a 50% reduction before I will go out and buy these games. But there's an exception every now and again. For example, Rebirth, Final Fantasy Rebirth is coming out next month. I have that pre-ordered. This is the first game I've pre-ordered probably in many years. The only game I bought the week of release last year was I bought FIFA, which I immediately regretted. I caved in on that one. That one got me because I just wanted to play a football game, right? And I just thought, you know what, fine. So if this comes into place, it literally robs me of my entire strategy for how I buy games. So the amount of games that I will buy when this does kick in I'll be lucky if I buy 3 or 4 games a year. And that sounds crazy, but it's actually true. Because if I'm not able to get these games massively at a discount, either by waiting 6 to 8 months or by buying a used copy on eBay for a similar price, because I don't care if it's used, it doesn't make a difference to me. Yeah. Then you are literally taking me out of buying an awful lot of games. So the amount of games that I will be getting when I'm not even going to say an if, when it goes full digital, you'll be lucky for me to buy 6 games a year. If I buy 6 games a year when it all goes digital, I'll be surprised. At the moment, I'm buying maybe 8 games a year, and most of them are half price, are being reduced by 50% because it's been like 8 months later.
We're going to have to adapt in that, because you say you wait roughly sort of 3 to 6 months before the prices start dropping, and we all know that prices for games do reduce fairly quickly. And for me, waiting like between 6 months and a year is the best thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I advise everyone else to do as well. So, I mean, what else is there to say? I mean, Microsoft, you really do need to sit down and sort of think carefully about what you're doing here. Don't get rid of the disk drive. Well, they're going to. So
they are going to. Yeah, they are going to, bruv. And then the thing is, it actually, as you said at the start of the show, when you were talking about the Xbox X doubling as a Blu-ray player, you're taking all that away as well. You're taking all that away, so now it's no longer a Blu-ray player as well. You're taking the value of the system. So this digital version they're going to release, they better be reducing the price of this thing by a couple of £100 then.
No, I don't see that happening. Maybe £100 tops.
Wow.
But I don't see the movie and TV show industry abandoning Blu-rays and going pure digital, to be honest. Certainly not.
Really, even with all the streaming, everything's on all these streams nowadays. You really don't think
there is a difference between watching a stream of a film and then watching the Blu-ray, and that industry really kind of likes selling those copies. So I'll be surprised if they do. I mean, because it's not one body of companies. It's not like a group. It's not like Microsoft and Sony and Nintendo, like 3 powerhouses. There's a load of distribution companies. You've got Universal, Columbia, TriStar, Miramax, right? And they all release their stuff separately via Blu-ray or whatever the popular format is at the time. So I don't think we're going to see that.
You want to know, bruv? Like, we're talking, because we're middle-aged, right? We're talking from people who grew up collecting. I can look over to my side shelf and I can see my collection of older DVDs that I still have, right? I can see my collection, not hundreds, but I can see my collection of Blu-rays that I have, right? Because I grew up collecting these things. But then, I mean, where I used to live, I used to see a very young couple of like 20, 21 years old. And they invited me over for dinner one evening, and I went over there, and there was no games, there was no movies, there was no collection of anything. And I actually said to them, do you guys not like films? They go, no, we love films. I said, well, how come you don't own it? They go, we do. We own it all on our devices. Yeah. And that for them was completely normal, natural, the way things are. And that's what's going to happen, dude. It's dying with our age. There's always going to be some people who are collectors. I agree with you, but that percentage I don't think is going to be enough, because most people just want it on the move. Most people, young people want it on the move. The young people want it on the move, bruv.
Yeah, but that's the mindset that they're forcing people into. And they
Yeah, but
couldn't turn around like Microsoft, Sony did, and say no, you're not allowed to watch the TV shows that you purchased anymore.
but but these young people, they don't know any better. Like that's how it is for them. That they, the collecting stuff for them is like, well, why would I want this package of movies cluttering up my living room when I can just press a button and stream the film I want to watch on one of 20 streaming services that are now out there, or I've bought it on YouTube, or I've bought it on Google, and I can just stream it right into my phone and watch it there. That is normality for them.
Well, what happens if the internet goes down, there's like a terrorist attack and the internet goes down, or B, you can't remember your password for your YouTube or your Netflix or whatever account, and you can't get back into it? What happens if your account is hacked and everything is changed and you can't get back into it? Right? It's so easy for the companies to turn around and say, right, we're going bust. So sorry, you don't have access to these things anymore. Right, and it's all very, very fragile. Is my point, and it's all the more reason why we should have physical copies. I mean, like, I've got the full box set of Columbo. I fucking love the movie, the TV show. I got a modest collection of DVDs and Blu-rays as well. And if there ever is that sort of digital fallout, which I kind of suspect something's coming, I don't know. I've always feared something is going to happen, and if not, then I'll just go around Alan's house. He's got hundreds.
Yeah, I know.
So
I agree with you, but then again, we are, because of our age, we came from a generation where the streaming stuff wasn't commonplace. We kind of grew up just as the internet was coming in with its slow ass 50k modem speeds, which is how it was for the first 5 years or so, and then broadband started coming in slowly, and now the speeds have gone kind of crazy where you can do things that you never believed we could when we were growing up. But unfortunately, as with all technology, it's like that is not the commonplace anymore. And and it's only going to kind of get worse as technology gets better, as the speeds get faster. Stuff like normal television is definitely going to die, and I think all media, games and films, and it might. I think you're right that it's going to take longer for the film industry. I think the game industry is going to do it way before the film industry does. But inevitably, the end result is going to be it's all going to be digital.
Anyway, it doesn't really matter because films are shit these days, and so are TV shows. So it's like, as long as you have the classics, then for me personally, I'm just going to be entertained forever until I die. Your Quantum Leaps, your OG Quantum Leaps, your Star Trek TNGs,
South Park. I got all the South Park DVDs. I still buy them. I'm with you. I agree, but I'm talking about the future, less about us old farts, Pete.
Yeah, well, the youth would do well to listen to us old fogies. But I mean, like, we've heard from the point just slightly. This is all about Microsoft. We're worried, and we can see what's going to happen on the horizon. And the only way that's going to stop it is you, the public, stepping up and saying, no, we won't, we're not going to take this. We're not going to pay £90 for a fucking game that's going to last 5 hours. We're not going to buy a digital game with the fear that you could turn around at any moment and go, right, we're going bust, or right, you don't have access to it anymore. We've changed our mind, etc., etc., etc. We don't want these powerhouses to have full control over our collection. And that's what they want. They don't want us selling off our secondhand games. They want to make all the money, and it's disgusting. So the only people that can do something about it is us. So heed well our warning. And that's going to be the end of our podcast.
It's worrying, bruv, but
yeah, it is.
It is. It's pretty depressing. Hopefully, when they do fully get control, hopefully that some regulation will come in or legislation that will stop them from being able to exploit us the way that I fear that they may.
You're basing this on the fact that our government isn't corrupt, which unfortunately...
basing it on a lot of ideals that I know are probably not going to happen. But
yeah,
we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, be warned, people. Enjoy your, if you are on the lower income side, enjoy your used games while you got them, because it's coming to an end, folks, unfortunately. And I guess we'll leave it there.
Yeah. All right, everyone. If you liked our podcast, subscribe and click the bell and leave a comment. What do you think about all of this? Please let us know. We would love to engage you with all of this. And until our next cast, we'll speak to you later.
Take care, folks.